Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After our lunch break, we are continuing the Global Networking Forum sessions here. Just to tell you, in the technical sessions, also the afternoon sessions have started. But here we are now focusing on the governance of space exploration. And let me remind you that you again will have the opportunity to ask your questions in this respect using our Slido system up here, which you know already very well. And to moderate this session, it is my great pleasure to introduce and call up on stage Professor Tanja Masson-Swan. She is the IAF President for Technical Activities, and she is also Assistant Professor and Deputy Director of the International Institute of Air and Space Laws at the Leiden University. Tanja, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. We're nearing the end of this conference, but I'm especially pleased to be able to host this before last panel and to host this on a topic that is near and dear to me, namely space law, governance, regulations, and all those topics that are so important. And I'm going to call up first the panelists that will join me, and I will introduce them very briefly in alphabetical order. First is Gitanjali Kamat. She is Legal and Policy Manager at Digantara, which is an Indian company that offers space situational awareness, collision avoidance, and space traffic management services. She helps the company to navigate regulatory and contractual matters in the commercial space sector and oversees contractual and regulatory affairs to ensure the practical alignment of legal standards with emerging industry needs. She previously practiced as a corporate lawyer and graduated cum laude from the International Institute of Air and Space Law at Leiden. Welcome, Gitanjali. Next is Dr. Ranjana Kaul, who is a partner at the Dua Associates, which is a leading law firm here in Delhi. She established a space sector advisory on space security, military, civil, and commercial use of space, and advises commercial companies and startups on policy, law, procedures, intellectual property rights, transfer of technology, and more. She is a member of the National Advisory Committee of the Indian Space Association, and she is founding member and Secretary General of Spaceport Sarabhai, which is India's first think tank on space. It's only independent space-focused think tank. In addition to that, she is Vice President of the International Institute of Space Law, and she holds an LLM of McGill Institute of Air and Space Law in Montreal, Canada. Welcome, Ranjana. The third panelist is Bob Lamboret, who we have seen before, but I will still introduce him to you again. He's a senior manager at the Luxembourg Space Agency, where he supports the development of a commercial space industry. He is the lead for space exploration and space resources related projects and actively involved in the development of the Space Resources.lu initiative. He supports the European Space Resource Innovation Center, ESRIC, as a strategic advisor, also serves as a delegate in ESA, and previously worked in the satellite communication industry. He holds a degree in Master of Science in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from the École Polytechnique in Lausanne, Switzerland. Welcome, Bob. And last but not least, I welcome Dr. Zhongmin Wang, who is the Director of International Cooperation Center at Deep Space Exploration Laboratory, DCEL, of China, which is a subsidiary of CNSA, the Chinese National Space Administration. He's responsible for international collaboration of China's lunar, planetary, and deep space exploration missions, and is an expert on the ILRS International Cooperation Working Group. He has 30 years of experience in the global space industry, was project director of China ESA Galileo collaboration, worked at CAST and China Great Wall Industry Corporation, and was managing director of a Munich-based joint venture of CASC and EADS. He holds an aerospace MBA from Toulouse Business School and 3 other degrees in aerospace and management from China and Russia. Unfortunately, our last panelist had to leave early, so we will do with this stellar panel, and I'm going to take my seat over there. And indeed, as Christian said, please use the Slido. We will try to get through your questions. You have the QR code there as well, but if you have activated already before in the previous days, it will just simply work. So just to set the scene, I think it is probably one of the first time, if not the first time, that we have a whole panel dealing with governance of space activities in an IAF event. Space law has been part and parcel of the IAF since the birth of the IAF in the 1960s, because the IAF actually created the International Institute of Space Law, of which I had the honor of being 25 years a board member, of which 9 as its president and currently president emerita. So we have always been part of the IAC and all the conferences organizing colloquium on space law. But to have a podium in one of the global conferences is really, I think, an achievement, and I thank the IAF for providing us with this opportunity. Because, as I also said this morning, space law is no longer an isolated issue. It is, we used to have our sessions in a room at the IAC and nobody would join us, and nowadays, actually we see even in the International Astronautical Congress that space law papers permeate into all of the other technical sessions as well. So we do the colloquium as well, but we really see that awareness that space law and governance are important aspects. And so even in this panel, we have some lawyers and we have some non-lawyers, and I applaud their courage to also join us, and I promise we will not go into nitty-gritty of legal details, but really, for me, also policy and law and regulation are closely related. So we have that body of governance that has emerged since the dawn of the space age. And governance, when you talk about it, what is it really? There is not really a definition, right, of what governance is. It is really the system of who the actors are and what the instruments are and what the important challenges are for space exploration, for instance. And of course, we have seen also over the past few days that there are quite a few challenges, and not in the least because of security, safety, sustainability issues, and of course also the privatization, commercialization of space activities, which create challenges for the governance system as it has been in existence for the first nearly 6 decades of space exploration. So we can think of course, things like space resource utilization, or the large constellations of thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit, or the need for space traffic management, or the fact that we have so many new actors, state and non-state actors. What are the relations? What are the obligations? So many more states that are developing national legislation. How do we make sure that there is at least some level of harmony? We see new actors like the European Union becoming very interested in space because of its strategic importance. We see new collaborations across the globe that are emerging with things happening because of geopolitics, which are, of course, we've spoken about it, which are concerning, but which may actually also open up new opportunities for cooperation. So I could go on with more topics. I just wanted to read one paragraph of the Pact for the Future that was adopted by the United Nations last September. It has 56 actions that were adopted by the United Nations after a lengthy process. And the last of those actions, and you could say, why are we the last? But it's actually nice because, you know, you sometimes read the first page and the last page. So action 56 reads, We will strengthen international cooperation for the exploration and use of outer space for peaceful purposes and for the benefit of all humanity. And we reaffirm the importance of the widest possible adherence to and full compliance with the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, and so on and so forth, and establish a new framework for, and then 3 topics are specifically mentioned, space traffic, space debris, and space resources through UN COPWOS. And also, and that is I think also really noteworthy, invite the engagement of the relevant private sector, civil society, and other relevant stakeholders where appropriate and applicable to contribute to intergovernmental processes related to increased safety and sustainability of outer space. So there is really also at the global level this acknowledgement, this recognition that things are changing, stakeholders are changing, governance is evolving, and we need to pay attention to that. So we have developed a couple of questions with the panelists, and I actually see already questions coming in here in the panel, which is great, but I'll try to go through a few of them, and I'll do it in random order. Starting actually with you, Ranjana. Very happy that you could make it here, even though it was quite a drive from the city center, I understand. But I wanted you to ask about the recent development in India in the field of space resources, because as we all know, we have several countries that have adopted national laws. One of them is Luxembourg on space resource regulation. And India, I understand, has also recently adopted a policy, not a law, I guess, on space resources. Could you say a few words about that, please?
Well, firstly, thank you very much, Tanya, and welcome to my country. Thank you, all of you, for being here. So why is it that we have a policy and not a space law or a space resources law? Well, that national law is work in progress, so to speak. And in preparation of that, the technical regulations, which are a critical part of any country's space laws, are in the process of being put together. Some part of it already has. The title of that document is Norms, Procedures and Guidelines for Authorization of Space Activities under the Policy 23. And what we have got already is about satellites, establishing satellites, and ground stations. And when I was reading that document, I found that actually it is a wonderful summation of how to implement at national level the long-term sustainability guidelines. And also for the requirement of our companies that will establish ground stations, of all the regulations that are involved with ITU. We are still awaiting a similar set of technical regulations for launch vehicles. And when that is built up, then truly we will be in a position to have a space law, which is a summation of that treaty. And together that makes the national space law. So that's as far as why policy and not law. Now, this is the first time that India has ever articulated a national policy pertaining to space. And this is an outcome of the space reforms because of the decision to enlarge commercial entities into space activities. As far as space resources is concerned, the policy articulates that the focus is, and this is really space resources, so let me talk about India's moon journey. And what you're seeing today is actually a gradual build-up and progression of that moon journey, starting with 2008 and then 19, and of course 23, the Chandrayaan-3. Chandrayaan-4 is a resource recovery project. And this space policy, which mandates the ISRO to undertake studies and scientific studies and so forth in context to in situ resource utilization, celestial prospecting, and other aspects of human habitation, is to be seen in context to that progression and to the next. So that is what it is. A policy, by its very nature, is an evolving document. And in context to how long will, what is the sort of, what do we expect? Well, the decadal vision document that has been put out by InSpace says that for the next decade, for the next 10 years, the ISRO will be the principal actor in space, both in Earth orbit and beyond. Commercial companies are still nascent at different levels, some embryonic, some nascent, some little bit beyond. And it will take about that much time for them to get up to speed. There is no prohibition on the kind of technologies that they may develop, no problem, collaborate internationally, and a lot of our startup companies do have a great deal of collaboration, have established companies outside the country, all of that. And so the point is, ultimately, when the authorization, the technical documents will allow, and the government of India will take that decision in regard to how they want to approach space resource utilization, especially in context to commercial and otherwise, is in the future. That will happen later.
Yeah, so
Thank
it's
you.
interesting. It's of course a hand-in-hand development of the technical regulations, the policies, and then, as I understand, in different areas, and then ultimately leading to legislation. And of course, it is very much in line with all the ambitious programs that we have been hearing about here these days. So thank you for clarifying that. Bob, this morning already you briefly mentioned a very exciting development for us space lawyers, namely that Luxembourg has issued its first actual license for a space resource company. And so I would like to know a little bit more about that. It's really, that's a first, I think, to do some things on the moon, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So it's right, Luxembourg. We have a dedicated space resource law since 2017 that sets out a bit the conditions that a company needs to fulfill to operate, execute space resource activities under the national law. And back then we were the second country in the world after the US, and in the meantime some other countries have also a space resources law. And this first case comes with the iSpace mission, and iSpace, in particular iSpace Europe, that operates from Luxembourg, and they were awarded in 2020 a contract by NASA for the collection and transfer of ownership of regolith on the lunar surface. So it's a very, it's not as I mentioned this morning, it's not a sample return mission. You don't bring it back, but it's more, the exercise is about understanding how to execute a commercial transaction between two entities on the lunar surface. In this case, between iSpace Europe and NASA. And so basically the contract, what we authorize is the surface operation of the rover collecting and transferring the ownership or the regolith to NASA. And by doing this will be done by taking image and explaining or demonstrating what has been collected. I think also the value of the contract is public. I think they awarded 4 contracts for 50,000 euros. So it's basically, the sum is it's peanuts. The value or the activity as well, I think is of limited use. I think it's more to understand what this means to have a commercial activity or transaction on the lunar surface. And I think for lawyers, I'm not a lawyer, by the way, so I try not to comment too many details. It's very interesting to really understand the details behind these authorizations. What does it mean? And because it's a new environment. It has never been done so far. It's also, they are not the guidelines or the standards, as they are not the same guidelines and standards than we have for low Earth orbit, for GEO, where it's very well defined and we have a lot of experience. And this is more it's a new environment. I think as a regulator on our side, we, as a space agency, we provide advice to the government who issues the authorization. It's also, we are also learning, and I think this will be an evolving process to understand how to do this in the years to come.
Absolutely, it's very exciting. As you said, it's really an illustration of how do we react to a commercial transaction, even though it is mostly exemplary, or let's say it's not really a commercial action, but also to authorize and supervise this and to actually decide that you give a license to this is of course also a process, right? It is one thing to have a law, but it is another thing to then implement it and to have also the knowledge of what exactly is being done. And I understand correctly, the lander, the launch and the lander are authorized by Japan, right? And Luxembourg authorized the rover part of and the transaction part. So it shows also that for any space activity, you know, you will be international also in getting your licenses, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think this is something we understood during the process, how these commercial missions are set up with different commercial actors in the mission. And the national law did not explicitly now foresaw a Japanese transportation provider. And so you need to understand what this means for the law, and how to to authorize the part that falls under the law, to make sure that it is executed in a safe and responsible way. What does this mean? What are the points you insist? What information? What level of information they need to share? So these are all things. It was very interesting for the Luxembourg Space Agency to really go through this process. I have an end-to-end use case to understand all these detailed questions, and which was now here. It's a small mission, I would say, not to underestimate the value of that mission, but it's the technical scope is limited, is understandable, is clear, is predictable, and so it was but nevertheless it was for us interesting to do this. And I think it will help in the future to improve this over the years. And I think that's also maybe an important point for us is this: we want to create an enabling framework and without limiting innovation, but we still want to make sure that there are responsible operation, sustainable operation, not dangerous. That so to what this actually means concretely is not so straightforward.
Not so easy, yeah. You have to balance all those different interests, yeah. Very interesting. And the landing is foreseen early June?
Right, yeah. So it's coming up. The landing is scheduled for the 5th of May or the 6th, I think. In Japan will be the 6th, in Luxembourg the 5th. And yeah, we cross fingers that it's successful, that we also see how this plays out. Now we went through the theoretical part, then now we need to see how the mission goes. And yeah, I invite you, it will be available online. And
we'll all be watching out. Exciting. Zongmin, over to you, because, and we discussed it already a bit this morning, of course, China launched the Initiative for International Lunar Research Station, or ILRS, which is also open to international partnerships, and you have already partnered with states, but also with organizations, universities, I believe. And of course, we have on the other hand also Artemis Accords, and I wanted to know if you could perhaps share a bit more about what kind of principles the ILRS partners would be adhering to, and whether you see any concurrence or divergence with the Artemis principles.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think it's the both of the ILRS, what is initiated and the lead right now is by the Chinese the National Space Agency and also Artemis, which is led by the NASA. As two of the major and the biggest, the large-scale scientific project is the focusing on the moon. So the purpose maybe some of a little bit different, because for us is we are more focusing on the robotic exploration of the moon, and would like to have to establish of the permanent the infrastructures on the surface of the moon will be allowed for the international society, and also it's all of the other countries and partners could be used for some of robotic exploration, and also could be have the habitat for the future of the human, for the astronauts from different countries. I think it's Artemis is also have a similar purpose, but could be have different little. So because it's in the beginning, so should we have some of orbit station, the gateway, but I don't know what it will be changed. Maybe to have some future of a new plan. And it also will be provide some of the international cooperation, the platform for all of the partners. But I'm thinking that is the Artemis code and the Artemis program although they have the same name, but they are different because as I know that Artemis the program is origin it's come from the ISS, the International Space Station. So it's the major partner is still the developed countries, and although this is so many of countries have signed the Artemis Code, but the Artemis Code is more like some soft law policy, which some of the concept will be acknowledged by those people, not the country. It not means the real participation of the program. The RS is a little bit different because this is a program, so we don't have not yet of such of the soft law, where we have some of initial of one of the cooperation initiative in 2 years ago. This also include some of peaceful utilization, the lunar resource protection, and the international cooperation, and those things. But this is not the code, yeah. So it cannot be compared to the Artemis code. But when we do this as international lunar station, the project will let every of the partner, the countries, in the institutions, the researchers will fund his position. Will have to fund there's a contribution. Will have a benefit. Will have the real participation into the project. So this is the program is some of a little difference. So I think it is some of thinking is maybe different between the RS and the Artemis, but you know that when we initiate the RS, everything is under the legal form of the UN corpus. So we are follow the treaty, the Outer Space Treaty. So we'll protect the environment. We will share some of the samples. For example, the most important case that when we have the lunar sample taken from the near side of the moon, so from the Chang'e 5. So after 1 year, we'll have to open the application to the whole of the world. Every scientist in every country, don't know any difference, they can just apply for the scientific study. So you see that is the countries from Europeans, from the Japan, from the United States, those of scientists that have the very treasured sample to start this studies. So this is means that although we don't have the Artemis code, but we are following all of this international law. Go back to the Artemis code because we also have studied the code that is we found them still have inner problem, inner issue. So it's some of inner conflict within those sentences. Therefore, we are thinking that we should have such of a more better of the lunar regulation, or some of new of the sentence could be accepted for all of the country, and especially will be under the governance, the form of the United Nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, and indeed, we'll come back to that because indeed the United Nations is also taking steps. But just going back one step to the ILRS, what do you think about the fact that there is at least one country, and maybe there will be others, who signed up both to ILRS and Artemis Accords? Do you think that's good or bad, or do you have a view on that?
Yeah, we really welcome the country because it's not say that if you are white and you cannot black. So we welcome every country, even if you already have the member of the Artemis, is also could be the partner of the RS. So we even welcome some of for example, the leading country of the Artemis is also can work together with the RS. It's open to all countries, no any difference. So it's although currently it's the most part is the global south, the developing countries, because this is a project is designed. This project is designed for the developing country. So we maximally benefit by the developing country, but it's also we welcomed the traditional the space power. You see that is from the progress of the Chang'e program. The most part of the scientific payload, the Petri bag, is still from European. Yeah, and also in the morning you can see that is even the United States company have some cameras is on the Chang'e 7. So this not means we extract some of a group. We welcome everyone. Yeah.
Thank you for confirming that. That's good to know. Gitanjali, over to you for a legal question, because you mentioned the word benefit, and that is actually a word that we see in the first article of the first treaty that was conducted on outer space, which says the exploration and use of outer space shall be carried out for the benefit and in the interest of all countries, irrespective of their degree of economic or scientific development, and shall be the province of all mankind, humankind, we will say now. Do you think, and if so, what policy and legal changes are necessary to really realize that benefit duty? It's a legal obligation, right? How do you see that?
Thank you, everyone, for attending this session. It's truly an honor to be a part of this panel. Coming to the question, I think what we're seeing now with major spacefaring countries who are making huge leaps in technological advancements and innovation, they are the ones who are taking the lead and leading the front for also making sure that there is a regulatory framework and policy and guidelines in place. The important thing to note here is that that development and that approach should not be taken by just a handful of countries who have those capabilities in the world today. Which is why it's important to have these discussions for policy and what the standards and guidelines should look like at international forums. And I mean, right now, even at the UN Corpus, these discussions are taking place. Even if you mention about space traffic management, creation of working groups to address these questions. So that is one aspect of it. The second one is having the national law policies and frameworks also account for novel space activities, because oftentimes they may have a limited scope of the kind of activities that are authorized. And I think Luxembourg has really set a great example with the space resources. And so it's important that even the framing of those laws and policies are actively collaborating with the private sector who are engaged in those activities, because if that collaboration is not done, then that again becomes futile. So of course, policies have to be subject to a review mechanism. And because of the pace at which the industry is innovating, I think that needs to be sort of expedited or, sort of given that regulatory clarity even to promote the private sector. So that those two would be, I think, some of the changes that we will need.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that you have all these working groups in COPOS on space traffic management, for instance, it also means that all the states who have, in the meantime, joined UN COPOS as members should also actively participate in them. And indeed, the coordination of establishing a national law and coordinating with the private entities what their needs and perhaps showstoppers are is indeed also important. Anjana, we heard that India is really opening up to private industry, space industry at the moment. And how is that going in terms of regulation? Is there also that sort of coordination between the government and knowing what the industry's needs are before regulation is set and policies?
Yes, absolutely. The InSpace, which is the Indian Space Promotion and Authorization Center, is actually itself a startup. We never had a private sector or the thought of a private sector operating on its own. And I must say that InSpace has actually hit the ground running. And for all of us who thought that, what is InSpace and what will it do and what can it do and all of those things, I must say that we paled into insignificance because they're doing a wonderful job. And it is a very interactive relationship between our commercial companies, the new companies that are coming up, new space, and also our established commercial companies that have been suppliers through the government procurement route for India's space program. They too are getting enlarged and ready to undertake activities. So both things are happening simultaneously. And there is intense interaction all the time, I think. She has been part of many of those interactions, and it's a great deal of back and forth, and which is extremely encouraging, I must say.
Yeah, and that's perhaps a new way of governance, because I don't know if that was really the case in the early days. As you said, it was really set by the space powers, right? So that is perhaps a modern way of making governance more sustainable also.
Well, I think it's just like turning a new page and reading the first page and the second page together.
Oh, we definitely do. I agree. I
Yes.
agree. And Bob, how is it in Luxembourg? Because you mentioned also earlier on that need to balance on the one hand innovation, on the other hand overseeing, wanting to enable the industry. Could you say a few words how your government tries to find that balance?
How does it find that
it is
to balance?
Bob, for Bob. For Bob.
Oh, for Bob. All right, sorry, I was sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's an important question, and for Luxembourg, the space is seen as a way of diversifying the industry, the economy, and as a small country, we simply do not have the means to do our own missions. So I think we see these commercial opportunities a way to drive and to grow this sector beyond the public funding. So this relation with the public sector is very, very natural and is very deeply rooted in the strategy. I think the goal is to create a sustainable space economy in Luxembourg that can survive and grow without without the state, the public support. Obviously, our support is important in the beginning to develop the first capabilities, the first services or products. But then beyond, I think it's important that the industry also develops these commercial opportunities, and that's we are not this traditional space agency in a sense that we don't have our mission or technology roadmaps, and we see our role as an enabler partner for industry, and I think there we are very much closer to the work in India that InSpace is doing than ISRO, and I think that's the result of the growing space sector in Luxembourg is a bit the result of the policy we are implementing at many different levels, among others through having these different space laws, or the R&D funding we provide, or the talent development we do with the university. So at all these different levels, we try to support this development of an ecosystem in Luxembourg.
Yeah, I like that term, an enabling agency, and that is also perhaps in line with really a transition from governmental to private activities where you often see, and that's also one of the questions that came here, public-private partnerships, right? It's not even in the United States where commerce is really taking off much, much faster than so far than in the rest of the world. It is, of course, always a transition. You want to say something about that? Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to say that in addition to the InSpace, two new associations came to birth around the same time. The first is the Indian Space Association, and the other is the Satellite Industries Association. Now, both of these are forums where our young companies interact with those coming in delegations with their people, foreign countries that come. It is a forum where country to country, in informal setting, dialogues happen. And both these are very closely linked and working also, as it happens, with InSpace. So there's a tremendous synergy of these three institutions that is really feeding our system.
Good, yeah. A whole ecosystem of governance we see emerging. Zongmin, going back to you, we all know that outer space and especially low Earth orbit is getting pretty congested. I think China also has plans for constellations of small satellites, right, for providing internet. And we have as one of the governance instruments, of course, the so-called long-term sustainability guidelines, and the sustainability and preserving outer space for future generations is a commitment. How do you see that an agency can, on the one hand, fulfill those principles of long-term sustainability, and on the other hand, promoting innovation? Is there a secret recipe, or how do you see this?
Okay. Okay. I think it's because I'm not. We come from the laboratory. I'm not a real agency, but we are the subsidiary of the agency. Just to do some technical activity to fulfill the agency's purpose. In my understanding, that is for the agency is because the space, the economy, space industry is a very important part of one of the country, especially the traditional space country. Therefore, for the agency to do something, for example, the technology innovation, some for regulation reform, and also the industry incentive, and also, of course, the international cooperation, such after also for the method to one hand to stimulate the growing of this space, the technology, space of economies, space of the industry, and also will have some of quite the good the regulation for each of the activities. I think that some of actions could be the agency could do. For example, for the innovation of the technology, for the sensitivity, stability, that will become light. For example, the launch provider to use the more environment protection technology, and also will be forced to asking have some deorbiting the method led to reduce of the debris in the space, and also will be have some of to make the long term of the space policy, and to reasonably to allocate all of the resources. For example, the frequency, some of resources, and also will be to use some of the foundation to incentive of the new startup and the new commercial companies, and also will be have the to more and more to encourage the young generations to use them, the education, the training. Some of also will be have established some of environment monitoring the mechanism to have some evaluations. And also the international cooperation is also very important for the agency. So I think it's for all of the agencies, a lot of work have to do. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and of course, this need to ensure sustainability by what you said, for instance, having deorbiting mechanisms on board satellites and so on, also creates opportunity for innovation, right? Because you will need companies to build those concepts and so on. So it's also, on the one hand, you could see it is new regulation. On the other hand, it also creates new business incentives.
Yes, for example, in China, it's because we have the traditional force, the giant, the space industry group. So they are taking the most part of the national program, the new missions. For those one, it will be firstly that we have the quite a system of the regulation to light them to ensure the successful rate and the safety of each of the mission. But we also have some of stimulated method to encourage of the new commercial company. For example, the silent manufacturer or the launcher, the manufacturer, say to try the new technology, which is the traditional group is we're not there to try because it's somewhat risky, but we like the commercial company to use. For example, the reusable launch technology. We have some flat, the satellite technology, have some of new generation of propulsion technology, such as. So we can just balance that for the traditional, the industry group, and also the new company.
Right. And talking about that, for instance, that long-term sustainability guidelines, Gitanjali, coming back to you with another legal question. It's like exam time. You know, so this is really the trend, right? We do not have any new treaties, and that is perhaps a sign of the times. What is your take on that as a working in a commercial company, as a member of the young generation? Do you think it is bad or good, or is it just we have to make do, or would you prefer to have new treaties on debris and space resources and so on? How do you see that?
I think it's important to be realistic and a little bit more practical given the current geopolitical context as well. I do strongly believe that the treaties are great as is. They are meant to be a foundation of strong legal principles that do serve as a strong framework to draw guidelines and standards basis that. And I think it might be difficult. I'm not saying it's completely impossible to have new treaties in the future. But at the same time, because you have the industry needs also emerging in recent times, it's important to be up and moving about the standards and guidelines that countries can collaborate and have those discussions in different forums about what they are doing nationally within their frameworks, what they're thinking of, making sure that the voices of different space companies are also heard and involved in those discussions. So I think it's going, the path forward does look like how the LTS guidelines were achieved. It is a time-consuming process, but it does have its benefits that can be seen even today.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. And one of the areas where that is happening as we speak in Vienna at the moment is, again, space resource governance. Ranjana, actually the vice chair of the working group on space resources, has just presented his, what is it called? Initial draft set of recommended principles. Note the words, initial draft set of recommended principles for space resource activities. Have you read them, and what do you think about it?
Well, yes, I did read them and print them out as well. I have to say I'm terribly impressed with the outcome of this. It's very well put together, and it's been done in record time, I think. You know, sort of, I'd say 3 cheers for all the effort that's been put in. I was curious, I don't know whether both of you have read it also, about how it's been put in 2 parts.
Yeah.
Where in general terms, there is a common understanding amongst the working group on certain aspects. And then where there may not be. So I find that differentiation very interesting. Of course, I've gone through it. So I'll wait for your precise question.
Well, what surprised you most, perhaps? Was there something in there that you did not expect, or was there something that you did expect and that wasn't there?
You know, for me, the most significant and important part, and which I hope that all of our countries find consensus, is the second part and the last principle. And that last principle is titled Principle 10, on the review of principles. And if the aim of the exercise is, as the work schedule suggests of the working group, to come up with some norms and guidelines and procedures on all such things, so that all countries can follow, have common understanding and sign into that concept, then, I may be sort of amplifying this, but conflict on the moon is not an option. Much as there is conflict on our Earth, we should not carry it to the next planet. And so this is what I find of extreme significance, which is the last, which says that such revision and amendment may include, but is not limited to, a range of things, including development of potential rules and or norms for equitable sharing. That is the elephant in the room, I think. Among states of the benefits derived from space resources, in brackets, optional, I suppose, taking into account the interest of all states, whether or not engaged in such activities, and the development of mechanisms for such benefit sharing. So the Outer Space Treaty itself does not prevent countries from coming together and putting together a viable framework. It may be exactly this or may not be exactly this, but there is nothing that prohibits, and there is therefore no reason why we should not look at this document. It also deals, for example, with liability, which is not in the first part. It talks about perhaps differentiated types of celestial bodies with different kinds of, depending on those. Sustainable commercial use of space resources. And there's something which I find actually not so happy with, which is in context to safety zones. I find that there is no mention in either where there is common understanding or where there isn't common understanding of the second paragraph of Article 4, which is a prohibition on maneuvers and fortification and installations of any kind. That is conspicuous by its absence from anybody's mind, it seems. That, I personally, I'm a bit of a peacenik, if you like. I find that a little worrisome. And international mechanisms for licensing, monitoring, coordination. This is missing in the first part. These are the kinds of things I find. There's another one which says that to restore, now where has that gone to? To restore...
to the situation that existed, so that you
clean
up your mess.
In the common understanding, it says remediation. I have not quite understood how, when there are planetary resources that inherently are non-renewable, what does restore mean? And then what does remediation mean? So several things, but overall I think it's a very good start, and I do sincerely hope that just like there was consensus on establishing this working group, that we continue in the same spirit in Copious.
Interesting. I'm sure that we will all now go to the website of the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs and find that document. It's interesting reading. And indeed, it's in two parts. First part where there is generally more or less consensus, even though even there are parts that are in brackets, and then a whole second part with things still to be discussed. So they still have, I think, 2 years in the working group, so there still is some more time, but it's an exciting development.
Consistent with the Futures Compact, which you read?
With the Pact of the Future, exactly, which mentions space resources. So that is to be followed. Bob, back to you. Now, you have, of course, made the space resources law to attract also the business, to enable the business of space resources. You have given now that first license for scooping up some regolith and selling that. And of course, you have to issue to assess the risks of an operation. Now, would there be commercial activities where you think the government would think twice before they would authorize and supervise it? As you said, this activity is perhaps pretty innocent. It doesn't really create a risk of harming, but we talked earlier in the week about private space stations, commercial space stations, where you will have astronauts living and working in space. Do you think the government would think twice about authorizing that in assessing the risk, or are there other examples you could think of that would be less evident?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Also, we have not yet had the case to assess or discuss or understand what it means to authorize activities or a full space station. I think what's always for us important is to understand the activity, the nature of the activity, make sure that for us there's a clear commercial driver, is non-military, is a very neutral activity, that it's responsible, safe, that the companies have the financial and technical means to operate what they want to operate, and that it's done in a professional way. So those are all these points are set out in the law. So I would not exclude a private station. As such, it depends a bit how it's set up. What do you do on the private station? At the moment, we know the ISS, where we do many different things. Maybe in the future you have parts of or some stations will be more specialized for certain activities. Obviously, when you have humans involved, it opens a whole new dimension. You need to be much, you need to answer different questions. So it's, I think I'm not able to answer this question now if we would exclude it or not.
I'm not asking you to make a statement about.
But no, it's. I think we are interested to work with industry to enable those activities. So. And then find together what it means to do this in a, as I said, a safe and a responsible way, in a controlled way, and also limit the risk to the extent possible, knowing there's always a risk when you go to space. And I think it's always finding this balance, and the regulation should be enabling and not limiting these activities. We don't know what we want to regulate in 5 or 10 years from now, so it must be this evolving, I'm not sure if that's the right word, evolving regulation, but we all learn, will discover in the next 10 years these activities, and then we better understand the details to take care of. And that, I think, we are in this phase where there's a lot of innovation going on, there are a lot of new ideas, a lot of new actors, and it's find the right balance between over-regulation and non-regulation.
Yeah, and I think that distinctive feature of involving humans is probably another ballgame. And indeed, you would want to maybe do a thorough check in terms of financial sustainability so that the company doesn't go bankrupt and the astronauts are stranded in space or whatever. And of course, in the end, it's still the government which is responsible. So that there is that safety net. But we will see what time will bring. Time is going really fast. There was one question I wanted to ask Zhong Min from here. We have actually answered quite a few along the way already. But one is about DCEL's pivotal role in deep space missions such as Space, Lunar and Mars programs. How is China envisioning international collaboration for future lunar-based development or Mars sample return missions, particularly with countries that are not part of ILRS or Artemis? So it means, are states asked to join the program before they can participate in these activities, or is it not connected?
Firstly, the ILRS the program is a lunar program, so therefore this is not. Of course, is if the partner of the RS will we have some more benefits, will be have some more priority for the international cooperation. But we have said is the deep space exploration, the mission cooperation is open to the whole of the world. So, for example, if for the Mars mission, if it's not the member of RS, but you still, if it's, your proposal could be some quite attractive. So it's because we have the experts who will have so organize some of the committee. Will be evaluate each of the proposal come from different countries, from different scientists. So if this proposal is good enough, it will be have a very high of a scientific value. This is still quite a very high opportunity to have this priority of this cooperation on the Mars sample return mission. So as I know that is some of the European institute and scientists already have started prepared proposal and have showed the intention. And for the RS, of course, it's if the member of the RS will have some more benefit. For example, is under the RS, beside of the mission coordination, the system levels, cooperation, the equipment, the scientific payload piggyback, we also have designed some of a very special program like the CubeSat constellation, the international education and training, the scholarship program to especially the developing country. Therefore, this is a majority of the partnership of this RS. So if you are the member of the RS, you will have more share, more benefit to have to get this the feedback from those of the education training. For example, you can send more students to China to have a scholarship. You can have some for more participation into the student, the CubeSat participation like this. So there will be a little bit different, but as I said, it's open to whole of the world, no difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Join the club. The time is at 0 already. Can I ask one quick question to Gitanjali? Because they always say youth has the future, and I've heard several times over the past days, the future is now. What is your contribution as a representative of the next generation to governance of space exploration in 10 seconds, 20 seconds?
I think as Ranjana ma'am had mentioned about industry bodies like Indian Space Association, they have been very encouraging in sort of having young professionals contribute to this discussion. In addition to that, I would like to add a word, to maybe some conferences and events that are held in India. We do have a lot of potential to make it more diverse. And, we've seen that happening at the international level, but it can be increased even in India. So that's one thing that I would like to point out.
Great, and we have a whole next panel also focusing on the next generation. So I'm going to end it here. Sorry to overrun a bit. Thank you so much to all the panelists for sharing your thoughts freely. I think it was a very interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tanya, for moderating, and to all the speakers for the interesting discussions. May I ask you also to come in front and do a group picture as usually? And without further ado, we'll jump into the last GNF session, not only of today, but of this GLEX 2025 conference. And this session is dedicated to the role and the opinion of the young generation. It is titled Beyond Earth, Beyond Age, the Key Role of Youth for the Future of Space Exploration. And the panel will be moderated by Ms. Shravan Shagun from the Space Generation Advisory Council, and a big thanks to SGAC for preparing and working with us on organizing this session. And it is now my pleasure to call up on stage Ms. Shagun, and please give her a warm welcome with an applause up here.
Good evening, everyone, and namaskar. I welcome all of you to this last session, which I will be moderating, and as you know the title, Beyond Earth, Beyond Age, the key role of youth for the future of space exploration. And we have a very interesting panelist, so I'd like to first invite Mr. Clay Maury, President IAF. Next, we have Dr. Shreya Santras. She is Assistant Professor of Space Robotics in Japan, and also she is Space Generation Advisory Council Scholarships Co-Lead. I invite next to Lisa Vitaris, Director of IAC 2025 Sydney and Space Industry Association of Australia. Next we have Mr. Gopichand Thotakura, and he is India's first civilian space tourist. We do not, unfortunately, Sirisa had to leave, so she's not here, but I welcome all of you and thank you for being here. Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed one name. Professor Pascal Ehrenfeld, President of COSPAR. Thank you, Professor Pascal. I hope you would ignore this mistake. And thank you so much. And we also, there will be a QR code, and you can scan that to ask question to any of the panelists, specific to any of the panelists, or specific to anyone, or in general, any questions if you have. And with that, we start our session, and the first round of this session is about the power and the potential of youth in space and why youth matters. With that, I'll like to ask first to Clay that we see that there is growing interest of youth in the space sector, and you are someone who has extensive experience in commercial space sector. How do you see that youth are contributing, and why do you see that their contribution matters when it comes to commercial space sector? And second part of the question is generally to all the panelists that what suggestion would you like to give to the youth to contribute in space exploration to make it more sustainable in a way, or make it accessible to everyone? Thank you.
Sure, thank you for the question, and thank you for having me on the panel. Look, the youth are the ones bringing the energy. They're the one bringing the new ideas to what we're doing. If you look back at the Apollo era, right, which I'm older, but I'm not that old that I can really remember what it was like in the 60s. But you know, the average age in the Apollo program was something like 25, 26 years old. These are people right out of school, right out of engineering programs that were actually building, designing, launching humans to space and to the moon. Right? And so you see that same trend happening now, particularly in the United States. I hope it's also happening, and I've met a number of students here in India, where we have a whole new generation of young people that are actively involved. I think SpaceX is probably one of the companies that comes to mind in terms of how they embrace young people. They have an older, responsible engineer on the team, but they're attracting people right out of school, right out of university or a master's program that are helping them to build, design Starlink, Starship, all of these Dragon, all of the programs that they're working on. So a very young average age there compared to the more established players in the industry. They're bringing energy, they're bringing excitement, they're bringing new ideas and hard work, right, to it. And I will just say, you know, I'm now also the head of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. I just finished, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Arizona where we did our design, build, fly competition. We had students, over 1,000 students from all over the world, 15 different countries that were there, designing and building aircraft, working in teams, all looking for jobs in this industry, all ready to come out with backgrounds in mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, electrical engineering. These guys are bringing a whole new spirit to this. This is the most exciting time right now in the space industry that I've been in 32 years because of the dynamism, because of the amount of investment that's flowing in, and we are trying to harness the capabilities of these young people who are bringing this energy. And I've met a lot of great students here. I think there's 500 plus students here at this event this week. And they're all asking me kind of the same question. How do I get an internship? How do I get a job? How do I get a scholarship to go to the IC in Australia? So you see this energy, you see the excitement that they're bringing, and I'm thrilled by it, right? And I think really it's going to carry us forward. We know in Milan, the IC, where we had a record number of 11,000 people, we had a huge turnout from students and young professionals, huge turnout in terms of the number of abstracts submitted. And I say this, by the way, for both IAF and for AIAA, where I am. The students are the flywheel. I don't know if you know this concept of the flywheel from Amazon, where they talk about the engine that basically creates and throws off all the other ideas and energy for Amazon. Our flywheel here is the students, right? We're bringing the students to come, they present the papers, the abstracts, they attend the show, and when they come when they're young, when you come when you're when you're a student or you're a graduate student or you're a young professional, and you have a great experience at this event at a GLEX or at an IAF or IC, you're going to keep coming back throughout your career. You're going to bring that energy to our committee structure, to our forums and events, and so that's really the treasure. So it matters for us as an industry as we're looking to explore, which is why we're here this week, that they're coming, that they're engaged, they're presenting in the IP sessions, they're presenting papers, because you guys are the future. So thank you for being here, by the way. Yeah.
To that, I would add just one more thing that often we say that youth are the future, but I believe they are already the present. That's what we are seeing. And that's very interesting, like you highlighted the energy. We see the energy, and it's very important to preserve and motivate that. With that, I have a question for you, Shreya, because you have been part of Space Generation Advisory Council now for nearly a decade. That's a long time to be a part of any organization voluntarily. I must say that also. And you progressed from being a scholarship recipient. Now you are academic leader, you are in Japan, and also co-lead of SGSE scholarship. Looking back, how did being part of SGSE open professional doors for you? And more broadly, what does SGSE uniquely offer that traditional academic or industry pathways might not?
Thank you for the question, Shravani, and thank you for having me here. It's an honor. So that's true. I've been part of SGAC since 10 years now, and I'm still not a dinosaur, so I'll still be there. But yes, my first SGC, IAC I attended was in 2015, and fortunately, I got the scholarship to attend that. And when I went there, it was life-changing. I met people who were of my age. Shirisha was the first one I met there. And I thought like they were doing incredible work, and that was my inspiration, not people who were elder to me, but people who were of my age and with whom I could relate. And that moved me. And that's how I have been volunteering for this organizations ever since, as a website manager and now as a scholarship co-coordinator. Because I thought I have something to give back, because I got the scholarships, I got the opportunities, and this is where I can give back to the community. So SGAC, if you don't know, it's Space Generation Advisory Council. It's a permanent member of UN COPUS and IAF, IAF as well. So, and it provides a platform for young professionals and students of 18 to 35 years of age to attend different kind of events like IAC, SGFF and Space Symposium in the US, and many other regional events that we organize in different regions. And we give scholarships to attend these events so that you can leverage the opportunity to communicate, to network, and to be, so that your voice is heard out. So often it happens that students and young professionals' work or their talent or their voice go unrecognized. So SGAC provides that platform, also the opportunity, and we also provide mentorship to students to work on different kind of projects or for career guidance. So I think SGAC is a very unique platform. We have over close to 30,000 members as of today from more than 165 countries around the world. So it's one of the largest network of space students and young professionals, and many of the students I met here at SGAC, at GLEX, are from SGAC, and they got to know about this conference through SGAC. So I think that's what is unique, and it's a great opportunity and great platform to be part of, even as a volunteer, and get to meet some really great people.
Thank you, Shreya. Very interesting. 2 points, like you said, that it's a way of giving back to the society. And also, sometimes we do not actually find someone to guide us. And being a PhD student now, writing doctoral thesis on space law, I could resonate with that totally. And also being part of Space Generation Advisory Council as National Point of Contact India, when I was mentoring someone from Nigeria recently, and I felt a sense of giving back to the society and immaterial of the border where the person is located. And that's incredible that SGS is providing that platform. And one more question to you, Shreya, in addition to that, and I will be happy if any one of you would like to answer that. We are talking about beyond age. And then SGAC itself has a limitation of 35 years. How do you see that? And what should be done if we want to go beyond age? So
it's okay if you're over 35 years of age. You can still be an SGAC alumni and be a mentor for the younger ones, or you can support. So basically give back. That's your opportunity to give back. Be part of the alumni network. We have a very big alumni network of SGAC. So I think it's absolutely okay if you're...
So dinosaurs matter?
Yes,
it's okay?
They do matter, yes.
Yeah. And if any one of you would like to add, Lisha, maybe Gopi? Yeah, okay. So my next question is to you, Lisa. As you are working with IAC 2025 Sydney, that will be in Sydney in September, and that involves, again, bringing together the world's space community. And Space Generation Advisory Council is a proud partner of that, and we are very happy about that. And what role do you see young professionals are playing, not simply just attending it, but also as a contributing to the space community in general. And why is it important for them to be in the room and sometimes at the podium too, like we are having this session, why it is so important to talk about youth?
Yeah, I think this industry, I have to say, coming actually from different industries myself, from financial services and telecommunications and with a marketing background, this industry is really unique. For space to have such a thing as SGAC for 18 to 35-year-olds, fine, time-bound, dinosaurs aside as alumni, that I don't know if you realize how special that actually is, because it doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen in other industries, and I've been across many. So I'd just say that in itself is incredible. And then the fact that you get together for several days, you work on real world problems from the world's best space agencies, and you solve them together from all of these different countries around the world, and then they take your recommendations and actually implement them. I'm sorry, but that it's actually giving me goosebumps. The fact that you can actually do that is so powerful for the industry. So there's obviously, you know, amazing quality, amazing minds that come together to solve probably some of the world's most complex challenges. I think the really interesting thing as well is when we start to think about cross-discipline. So as I said, I come from a marketing and communications background. We need more marketing and communications professionals in space. We need to, and definitely in Australia, we need to change the narrative about space on the public stage. So how do we tell people about, you know, space is not just, no offense, not just astronauts, but it's, you know, it's more than that. It's actually changing, and, you know, you would know best, but it's changing our life on Earth. This is the message that we need to get across. So I think, you know, we need lawyers, you know, we need space law, we need communications professionals, we need astronauts, we need engineers, we need everybody. And I think SGAC is just the most fantastic opportunity to bring everyone together from these diverse backgrounds with all of these new areas in a workforce. It's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to having you all there and solving some really exciting challenges.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And like you said, yes, I have often been asked by many people, you know, okay, space law, is there a law? And it's not even that new now. But still, I have been asked by many people, what exactly are you working on? What are you doing? So sometimes I also used to question initially when I stepped into space law that, am I actually contributing something? And because I am working on the area like responsibility for environmental harm in outer space, so it sparks a lot of debate at times, also depending on with whom I'm sharing the table, obviously. So, but yes, that's very important, and I am not sure about any other area where so diverse people we can have at one table as a space, which is very interesting. And gathering like this obviously make it more important to exchange a dialogue. With that, I have a question for Pascal. And because you have led major scientific institutions and advised space agencies at the highest levels. And throughout your career, you have championed the value of cross-generational collaborations. But in a world where experience often dominates decision-making, why do you believe youth is essential, not just as a future talent, but as present-day contributors to space science and policy?
Yeah, thank you also very much for inviting me here. I feel quite home on the stage now after 3 days. And yeah, I would like to say this a little bit from the scientific expertise, because scientific knowledge, and in particular engineering knowledge, is something which is very precious. And you have to have this institutional memory. And you have really to create a new generation, and a generation which has fresh perspectives, which is questioning the status quo, and really proceeds into a long-term vision. And I think what's really very important is this combination of having people working together, which have worked on the different legacies, which have all this institutional memory, and actually give it to the next generation. It's in particular in engineering that's very important, because you have, we had in Europe, so a phase after 40 years where you really need to create a new generation, otherwise the knowledge transfer is really difficult. And as we know, space is complex and space missions are complex, and this has to be transferred. So I can just refer to also the 3G initiative from the International Astronautical Federation, which is actually really doing that, namely by generation, where you have mentoring and where I think you can approach really everybody, young people can approach everybody, for a discussion and understanding, what to do next, to help with a problem, and help with expertise. So this is really a very, very, very good place. And in generally, I think it is very important to have this kind of environment where people with a lot of expertise and which have run space missions, which have designed space missions, that they actually, work together also with young people, because it's a digital age and they have very different knowledge, and that this combination will bring us further into the future of space exploration.
Thank you. Very interesting. Like you said, there has to be an environment like that where we often feel that our voice are heard. And sometimes like I was just talking about myself, that, at times I was self-questioning and lost. So my question is to you, Gopichand, because you have made headlines as India's first civilian space tourist, and it was a powerful moment for all of us, for the country's visibility in human spaceflight. What advice would you give to youth who may feel space is not for them, or maybe they are just lost and they think it's a far-fetched dream, we are not able to reach that? So what is your advice to the youth?
Well, thanks for the question, but I think we've been talking about this for 3 days now, and if some of you have heard it twice, then I think I'll still say it again, because it's so powerful. And the message really is that they should never be discouraged to do something they love. It can be anything. It can be anything that you choose to do, but you shouldn't be discouraged yourself. Moreover, you shouldn't discourage your friend that's next to you, and that's very important. And I mentioned something yesterday when we were talking to some of the kids who were here, very passionate, and they have some questions which I haven't heard in some serious universities stateside. And these are 12th grade students in school here, and they're technical, and they know what is to come after the answer. They have a question following the answer, which is very unique to see. When you see this kind of passion, you don't want to be discouraged yourself, and you never want them to be discouraged through somebody around them. It could be a friend, it could be a teacher, it could be somebody else. But what I was mentioning yesterday was that it's the power of unity. It's the power of being together, whether if it's amongst ourselves or if it's amongst somebody else that you don't know, who can, give a lending open hand. The biggest thing that I was realizing in this conference, especially with IAF and everybody who's organized it, I've been to a lot of talks over the course after this flight. I have never seen a place like yesterday where there were 8 countries represented on one stage with people making significant impact in each of their domiciles. And that's huge. That's monumental. So if you think about it, I was one person in the room who had done something interesting when you were talking to universities. Yesterday, I was not one. I was one of many ones who were sitting here on stage. And that was very impactful. And that's the power of unity, to bring together so many people in one platform and try to deliver a strong message. They should never be discouraged. And I think that you should always support the one next to you more than supporting yourself, because you never know how you will grow once you support the one. So that's my message to them.
Very interesting, and thank you. Okay, so I'm sure everyone liked your answer very much, and it's very important that we meet such people who believe in us, when I say we, I am just representing all the students and all the youth, that it's very important. Sometimes when we are in doubt, we just want to hear it from someone else, someone be inspired. And I would say that I have been lucky to have a few mentors, very few, from India and also abroad, who has guided me and said, no, you are on right track, and which is very important at times. But unfortunately, I think sometimes we see that people believe in legacy, people believe in the generations, people believe in the experiences. Oh no, you don't have enough experience, so probably you are not able to do that. We often hear that, and many of us, I am sure, might have across all that already. But as young generations and in general, I believe that we should not restrict it to that. What is your take on that, Clay, that should we actually value still age over the enthusiasm that youth shares these days?
No, I mean, look, I ran a trade association, the Satellite Industry Association, when I was 29 years old, and I was afforded that opportunity. Why? Well, they couldn't afford to pay somebody older than me to run it. And I didn't know how to run a trade association. No one teaches you when you're growing up, hey, go run a trade association someday. But I realized at that point in my career, I was going to meet the executives from all the satellite industry in the United States. I was going to meet members of Congress and people in the government, and I was going to be able to carry the message for the industry forward. And so I took the job. It was an incredible learning experience for me. And as I like to say, by the way, for the young people in the audience, there's a lot of things in life that are one-way doors or two-way doors. This was a two-way door, right? So I could enter that job, I could leave it. Taking that job doesn't mean I was going to be an industry, a trade association executive for the rest of my life. I could have been, but I could also leave it and go into industry, which I did, right? So there's a lot of two-way doors, and you think about your careers and your life and where you're heading, think about going and stepping through those two-way doors, because it's going to lead you to somewhere else. It's going to, as long as the experience is something where you're learning, where you're making connections, where you're growing and you're thinking, it's a great opportunity. And so I encourage people, particularly the young people, take the risk, take the job, step into the job, don't have imposter syndrome. Yeah, you should really take it on and do it and learn in the role. So young people have an incredible amount of energy and power. I mean, you can look at a lot of the great startups, by the way, now in the tech industry, in the space industry. A lot of them are led by young professionals that are in their 20s and early 30s that are starting companies that are doing incredible things. So don't let that be a hindrance. And we should accept it, I think, broadly as an industry. I was telling the story about SGAC earlier, about how SGAC had to really fight for equal status amongst the IAF. For a long time, it was IISL and it was IAA, as part of the IAF, say, triad when we were putting on the IC. And I was on the board of SGAC for 12 years, and we really fought for about 5 years to get it to have equal status, and now it's an incredible engine for the IAF and the IC. So we're proud of SGAC, we're proud of what you guys bring, and yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Thank you so much, Clay. So
I just want to add something to it. Thank you, Clay, for all your work for SGAC. I just want to add that all experienced people have been young at some time. As Clay mentioned about Apollo era, even in India we had Vikram Sarabhai as the main visionary, and he recruited all young scientists in his team who got trained and learned from experiences. So don't be shy and just learn from your experiences with trial and error, and that's most important.
Right.
If I may, I'd love to add something as well, just as some advice to people who might be in that situation. I think one thing which I've seen a fair bit since joining this industry is young professionals definitely can do the job. They have the experience. Sometimes what still needs to be learned, and it does take time, are leadership skills. So managing a team, how to motivate people, how to actually be a leader versus a manager. Just, it's easy to tell someone to do something and how to do it, but how do you actually let them figure it out for themselves and get them to be self-motivated? I think that takes either education, so you can go and do, like in Australia we have courses for new leaders, so why not take that course when you are in your early 20s so that you actually understand how to motivate people and how to lead people? Because then you're actually getting these skills really, really early on, in which case you will be able to take that job. There's absolutely no excuse to promote you at a really young age to manage and lead a team because you have those skills. SJC also fantastic because you're getting those leadership skills. You're, moderating the panels. You're leading India into the future. You're leading the whole of the youth into the future of space. I think to get that opportunity, you really need to leverage both the leadership training and any leadership opportunities and get them nice and early. Put them on the CV, promote them on LinkedIn, put photos of yourself all over LinkedIn doing these amazing things in leadership, and then those opportunities will come. There is no reason why they shouldn't.
Thank you, Lisa. Pascal wants to add something.
Yeah, just one aspect. I think in my time, it was really important to follow a certain scheme. Yeah, you have to make your master, you have to make your PhD, and so on and so on. And today, I think the young generation is extremely versatile. They have an interdisciplinary education, often 2-3 masters. They made internships in between. So they have a completely different experience and also very often practical experience. And that really, really helps, in order also to shape, the space sector in discussions and being in networks and going into leadership positions. I think something what we have heard extensively during these 3 days is one of the aspects of space is safety. And this is something where everybody somehow clinches together and says, oh, wow, we really need, the status quo. We need to look what we have done in the past, what we have done. So here, I think in this aspect, I think we have all to work together that this is actually really transformed and worked out. But even AI, which I think the young generation masters much, much better, is important in the future for that aspect as well. So this interdisciplinary education, I realized that just now I speak in the microphone. So actually this interdisciplinary education of the young generation and this of practical internship and so on experience, I think brings a lot, to the space sector and, also to having a role and speaking up.
Thank you so much, Pascal. And I'd like to just add a point that, like Lisa just mentioned, that I'm moderating a session at the last moment, and which is incredible. I must say, when I received email and a message from Nicole, I was in panic that how. But then this is a chance. Either you do it or you fail. That's it. You have to take the opportunity or you have to let go and forget about it. And I am very glad to meet all these incredible panelists because they motivated me to go for it. And also, sometimes I feel when I'm talking to any student, they are very hesitant to reach out. And I always suggest that there is no harm. You anyway don't have anything, so just approach. And because of that, I'd like to highlight 2 names who are here. Ranjana Kaul ma'am and Tanja Mason ma'am, both of them has been very helpful in my career and in guiding me. So I always, if there is opportunity, I would certainly like to express that. So it's very important for youth also to keep approaching. Maybe you will not get a response, which is okay. And
Can I just
yes,
add
please.
something there? Because I think you mentioned something really critical, which is you either do it or you fail. I don't know if everybody here, particularly the young professionals, know that failing is okay. Like, failing is great. You've done it. You've given it a go. It doesn't matter. You can totally mess up on stage. You can embarrass yourself. How long are people going to remember for? Well, it depends how bad it is, but no, but they won't. They will forget. They will forgive. It's fine. It's better than not giving anything a go at all. Like, space wouldn't exist really as, and wouldn't have had so much advancement if it wasn't for failures. So I think I just want to point that out because I think some people, particularly when you're starting out, you need everything to be 100% perfect. No, you don't. You can fail. And probably you're going to learn more quickly if you do fail. So I think it's important.
I like the expression, you win or you learn, instead of you win or you fail. I mean, we talk about failing forward a lot, and SpaceX is kind of famous for this idea of failing forward. But it's really about learning, yeah, right? I mean, I don't think about it as failure, like, oh, okay, it's the end. It's just a learning experience, and you're going to get better as you go along. Yeah?
Right, right. Very well put. Yes, it is ultimately your learning. Even if you fail, you learn. So worth taking the risk. Like I always say to my students also, and I say often to myself also, worth taking the risk, why not? So yes, to that, I have a question for Pascal, because when we see especially science and exploration that is dominant by legacy and experienced professional there, how do you see youth playing challenging the status quo, and how can we balance innovation with risk in such a high-stakes environment?
Well, I think it's quite important for young people in science, you know, to try to find one subject where you feel really comfortable and good, and then you branch out interdisciplinary. It's always good to have one thing where you actually fall back and where you feel good and you have your self-confidence. So what I said before, there is a lot of interdisciplinarity, there is a lot of I'd say the flexible schedules of going in a company for a year, even starting a company, going back into a large company, going back and making a PhD. So this is all possible today. And I think all this experience brings you further. What I can say just from my career, which is ancient, dinosaur. What did you say about dinosaurs? Yeah. Okay. I love dinosaurs actually, and it is so that you have experience, you know, and you really want to continue, you know, to bring this to the new generation. I don't think that this it's a real problem to when you are young to go into networks. What I have done is really to go into working groups and just did the work, you know. I tried to connect to people, I tried to write the minutes, you know, start from the bottom, you know, like you go in a company, you know. And then when you do good work, you know, and the people see that you are interested and enthusiastic, you know, they actually continue to put you into networks and give you projects. So it is important for young people to ask, you know, for tasks and for projects and to succeed and to go further. I think this is the way, in particular in science, or when you make a master project and you want already to work on a space mission, that you go somewhere, or when you are in a university, you can also go in a company and actually make your master thesis or a project in the company by still studying and moving around in this direction where you really think you have success. I think this is something which is possible in science, and networking from the very early start, and trying to get special tasks done, and trying to really show what you can do. And I think SGSC is a wonderful platform. You are writing wonderful reports where you work together, where you exchange knowledge. And this is also where you can make your career, because you are presenting these kind of results and these reports at conferences. So it's, this is, I think, a little bit a way to go, in particular in science, because you have always to impress with results.
Thank you, Pascal, for a kind word of appreciation for SGSE, and I totally resonate with that. I myself realize that, and I'm sure Shreya will agree to that, and all the members who are here of SGSE. So thank you. And I have a question for Gopichand now, because your presence in space represents a new wave of access to space. But that also raises certain questions that who are eligible to go there, who should and how should, and a lot of more questions. So what's your take on how we define worthiness for space flight in the years to come?
I think, I don't know if I can change the question, but I think I'm not a big fan of the word worthy for anybody, for ourselves or for the next generation. I think it's a word that is very misleading in a way, and not really discouraging, but I believe that if somebody feels that they are not worthy, then they have been mistaken from both sides, from internally and from the other side. I don't believe that whether if it's space tourism or whether if it's an orbital mission or furthermore, the worthiness is in every individual who contributed to that person going to space, who's not there. So for the mission, for me to be able to get in a rocket, I believe everybody who was worthy to make that rocket get there that morning is more important than the people in the rocket that morning. You know, and in addition, there is a lot of, there's a few kids here, I don't even know where they are, but I happened to stumble into a small classroom 2 days ago, and it's the idea of giving opportunity to them to be aware of SGAC, of IAF, of all these organizations that in a country like ours is very hard to do mass marketing of. It's very difficult. I think there are about 10 pilots. I don't know where you are. You guys can probably raise your hand. Yeah, they are. So it's very unique because they had no idea this was happening. There's a class of, I think, 200 odd people when I walked in after the session here yesterday. And I just asked, if anybody is interested in space, not being an astronaut, but anything about space, please come and join. And this is live. And I think that it's not that the 10 of them are worthy and the 190 that did not come are not, but they realize the potential of being able to contribute to what would become worthy tomorrow in their own fields. So I think that that word is not best described the way it is, but if you innately can take the opportunity to come and present, then I guess that's your answer to being worthy. So.
Thank you so much. You are right in calling out the word worthiness. I am not a fan of it either, but sometimes we do come across such words, and I thought, who is the best person to answer that than you? So I just asked it, and very well put. Thank you. And my next question is to you, Shreya, because you have traveled across the continent, have traveled there, and your journey is very remarkable, and you have mentored also space, emerging space professionals through SGSE mentorship program. And from your experience, how do you define geographic gap, the barriers that you see, and especially when it comes to infrastructure? Like we always talk about the opportunities, we want to do something. But nowadays, I also feel that with the internet, with the opportunities available, we are still able to. But do you think it has reached to the extent it should? And what is the most important barrier you still see is there? Although we were just talking before the session, breaking the barrier, but what barrier you would like to break first?
Absolutely. Thank you for that very important question. I myself am from a very small mining town of East India, and no one knows about space there. Even now, I don't think they know much about what's going on in the space sector. But I was always very intrigued by the stars, and the library became my main liberating space. So I would pour into the books and study about cosmos, about Dr. Rakesh Sharma, and learned about Dr. Kalpana Chawla. And that became a main motivation for me to get into the space sector. And my motivation is to become an astronaut, but more importantly, that I make space more safe and sustainable. So I think everyone out there, the students, the young professionals who still don't know about space, it's very important for us to reach out to them. And I know several organizations and institutions are already working on this. ISRO is doing a great job reaching out to the students, to every corner of the country through their programs and schools so that they know about what ISRO is doing and the current ecosystem that has built in India, the space startups. They are doing a great job in recruiting students from different fields. So I think that's there's still a lot of work to be done, but there has been a lot of change in the last 10, 15 years. And it's also comes from, like, the student should know, as we discussed before, how to reach out to mentors, how to reach out to opportunities. There are a lot of scholarships, a lot of platforms that they can be part of, these competitions where they can learn from. And SGAC has several project groups, 11 project groups from different topics that they can be part of free of cost just with an internet connection. They can collaborate with people from around the world and publish papers. So these kind of projects can help them build their profile. I know ISRO works also for many skill development and training programs, even for space emerging countries of the region and other. Same for JAXA. JAXA has a very good program called BIRDS, where they train for capacity building of members of other space emerging nations. So yes, there is a geographic gap, but that can be filled up with these kind of initiatives that the space agencies and the organizations are doing. And there's a lot of work to be done, but I think we are in a good direction.
Very interesting, and very interesting to know about your journey as well, because I'm sure many of the youth must be inspired, and which is very important that we see ourselves into someone. That's how we create our own path, but obviously inspired by others. That's very important. And Lisa, I have a question for you now about, you know, many people are interested and they are also contributing in space in one or another way, maybe as a lawyer or maybe through music or art or as a startup. Startup is still okay, but there are many which are voluntarily positions when it comes to space. And how do we address this unfortunate reality that for many young people today, it is still, they have to struggle to make a living from working in space. Sometimes they are not able to do that. They can work in the space, but they are not able to make a living from that. So how do we address that unfortunate reality?
Yeah, and it still blows my mind that that is unfortunately for some people a reality, because space is literally driving the future. It is solving the most complex problems that we have on Earth. It is helping with climate change. It is helping with improving agriculture. It is helping to improve critical minerals, emergency services, bushfires, and so on. And it gives me goosebumps talking about the actual impact that space can have. And, you know, some of like the most complex things. In my mind, really, it's about a perception change that we need to affect. In Australia, definitely in many other countries throughout the world, we need to convey what space is actually useful for, why space matters. Because if you can actually change public perception, you can get everyone out there understanding the real value of why astronauts go to space. It's, you know, all the science and all of the research and all of the possibility and all of the development that then inspires, it motivates, it educates. Governments then can't ignore that. Governments cannot ignore if the entire population believes that space is the most important thing. They will then, this is my view anyway, hopefully redirect, and you know, India is a perfect example of that, redirect budgets, redirect focus on the space industry, enable it to grow, enable, you know, India to get 300 startups within the space of a couple of years. I just find that mind-blowing. So it goes to show, and you know, the Indian population is focused on space, does understand the value, does have some really exciting missions. I don't think that's the same in many other countries in the world. So how do we actually recreate that experience? How do we showcase to the rest of the world what a country can do, what the opportunities are in space, and then affect that change? I think until that happens, the industry needs to grow. It's still nascent in so many parts of the world. But I really, I'm here to help that. I love communications. That is my background. I think IAC is a fantastic vehicle. As soon as you host an IAC in your country, you are able to see that growth and spike in the space industry, which I'm really excited about to bring to Australia in September.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I have one question, and any one of you would like to answer, it's fine, but clearly more importantly to you, that sometimes we see that scholarships are very important, especially to participate in conferences like this or any event that is happening, because even the registration fees are very high, or if I can say it, it's inaccessible in a way that is creating a barrier in itself, and especially from youth, especially especially from the students who have very limited funding. And then if we compare from the developing nations or underdeveloped nations, we see hardly any presence from there. So scholarships are important, fundings are important, but then in a situation like now, maybe that there is a budget cut, there is no scholarship, not more scholarship, and the number of scholarships are limited, but we see participation from countries and these nations more and more every year, but that is limited. So how do you see this situation, and what solution, if you think it could have, what would that be?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. About a dozen years ago, I started an organization in the United States called the Future Space Leaders Foundation. And we created a scholarship to send students and graduate students to the Space SGAC Congress every year. And so I think we've sent over 73 or 74 deserving students to this event through grants over the last about 10 years. And it's been a fantastic program. It was a little bit of a challenge to set it up. I have to say, when I took on the task and I got my friends together, I thought this will be easy, and it wasn't as easy as I thought. But the outcome's been tremendous, and I will tell you the impact of those students that have come, and they've told me later, it changed my life, it changed my career. I met all these students from all over the world that are passionate about what I want to do. So there are mechanisms out there. We have a Young Space Leaders program at the IAF. SGAC does its own sponsorship, or sponsors scholarships to bring people to event. Space agencies play a huge role in this. So we get a lot of space agencies that will bring their young professionals or students from universities that will come to our events. And so a lot of this is actually you as students or graduate students have to go and dig for this money. You know, there is some money out there. Oftentimes, too, you can, with different organizations, you sometimes can get them to waive the fee. So I'll give you an example. I had a student who's an AIAA chapter member at Auburn University contacted me a couple weeks ago. He said, I'm trying to figure out how to get a job. I'm about to graduate. I want to go to some events. And I said, why don't you call up the organizers, see if you can volunteer at the event. If you can get yourself there, you know, get a cheap plane ticket. They may give you access to the event. So and in fact, this is exactly what happened. He went to Satellite, he went to the Space Symposium, and he attended the Fusion Forum, and he got in because he basically said, hey, I'll come and work for free as long as you'll give me the pass, the badge to attend the show. And I think he shared a hotel room or Airbnb with some friends, and they all figured out how to do this. So in some ways, you have to kind of work at it a little bit. You have to dig or find some unique ways to do it, but there are ways to do it. There really are.
Certainly. Yes,
I just want to add something to it. So there will always be crisis. In the morning, we heard the Turkish astronaut Alper mention that they had a huge earthquake, and yet their vision of going to space was not hindered by their policymakers. So this kind of policy support is very important to build an ecosystem, because we cannot jeopardize the future generation and our space visions for current crisis and challenges. So challenges will always be there, and we have to overcome those with our visions.
Interesting. True that. Yes, we have to overcome that, and there's no other way of that. Gopi, Chandip, do you want
I was just going to add to that, and I was just going to say that if there's a will, then, you know, Dr. Johnson from the NASA's, you know, the Dr. Johnson, which NASA has named after, there's a very famous saying, and she said that if there's a will, then you're already there. And that's kind of a way to put it for those individuals who are looking for a grant. The grant or a scholarship is not huge. It's really not that big. It's minute, and that minute can change their life forever. But I think that the gap is lying for the people who give the grant to the end user actually to get the grant. Especially in a country like ours, it's very, almost, it's not impossible, but it's too optimistic to think that I will get a grant if I have an idea to make a small box that's a satellite that will go to the ISS. The gap is too much. And to bridge the gap, it has to come from within, from innate, from those around you, and from those who are guiding and mentoring you. If they don't do it, then the box will always remain there. It'll never reach, you know, the ISS. So I think that it's the passion that is driven, and that passion will eventually get you that grant. And yes, there are so many other resources that are there. But for us, we don't see the resources in India. The resources are always outside the country. In India, there aren't any space organizations that are even publicizing that, yes, we do have a grant. But for someone to actually, who is in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city, who has a brilliant idea, For him to realize that there's a grant in Australia or in the US, it's not possible. It's really not. So it is such events, and yes, there is a barrier to a fee and everything for you to come in here, but it is such events, if made public, and okay, maybe the cost, maybe there's other factors to it, but you can live televise this like you're doing here. The live television can be the gateway to having universities or schools open that up and not have a class during this 1 hour. Rather telecast this to the science students, to those who are in physics, to those who want to go and do IGCSE or IB and all this. I mean, if somebody will take out of it, they would, right? They don't have to travel to Delhi to do that. We just have to make the effort to make this get to them. And it's not that much. There's no money play there. So I think it's us who also have to be a part of that to get the grant to them and not just them, trying to reach out because maybe they're restricted by it is what I think. So.
Interesting. You said it right that where there's a will, there is a way. And we just have to work towards finding the way. And we have a lot of questions, but I'm not sure how many I will be able to take. But let's start from Shreya. There is a question for you. You mentioned for people of age above 35, but how can people of age under 18 take part in SGAC? Now youth is just not limited to above 18 and below 35.
That's a great question, yes. So if you are below 35, you cannot officially be part of SGAC, but you can still be, join the different courses that are available, like the Achieved Academy course that is run by SGAC, or SGAC members run a number of initiatives. There are magazines, there are Space Tutor, which is an initiative by ISRO and InSpace, which is also like, there are several space tutors which are SGAC members. So you can learn from them, and then when you become 18 years of age, you join officially as a SGAC member. But your age is not a hindering factor. So if you have a dream, if you're passionate about it, nothing can stop you. You just keep believing in it and keep working on it. And that's the most important thing. So do not be worried that you're not yet 18.
If you're under 18, you can join AIAA, my organization, for free. Just go to the website, aiaa.org, and it's free. We are happy to have you.
Great. So you got answers and also options, if I may say that, so you can. And question is for President Pascal. For the people working towards space sustainability and space policy, can you suggest the way forward that could help make the required impact?
Can you just say
should I repeat
the first part? The first part?
Yeah, I missed the question. Just give me a second. Yeah. For the people working towards space sustainability and space policy, can you suggest the way forward that could help make the required impact?
Okay, so I do believe, and I think we all have witnessed this, that the young generation, the young space generation, is extremely interested in space sustainability and always asks questions and is also involved. The space generation has written a fantastic Eagle report about responsible lunar exploration. And it's a huge report, widely cited. So join the SGAC. This is one thing, because these are the documents which are also used and lead into policy documents. They are discussed, for instance, at the level of the United Nations. And so I think it's really important for to voice, to try to work in working groups, to try to be a part of one of the advisory groups of sustainability, which are everywhere in so many organizations. Also the IAF, of course, has committees. Every other organization has committees because it's a very, very important topic. And when you are part of these kind of committees and our advisory groups, you can actually really make your impact by helping to write documents which then will be delivered to decision makers.
Thank you. I hope that answered correctly to the audience. And there is one question for you, Gopichand. What is the initial investment plan for the aspiring astronauts, and what's the process?
Initial investment plan? I don't think I understand your question. You mean to do a suborbital flight, or is it an orbital flight? Or
I'm not sure because that's a question from our audience, and that's what it says, the investment plan initial, and maybe they might be asking about for the, how do they live while they are making plan to go in this space. I'm not sure what exactly that
I'm not sure I understand the question, but maybe I can answer it a different way. But I think that there is no investment. The investment is you yourself. The investment is your time. That's what it is. Somebody had a question earlier today on a panel, and they said, they were asking that, how much is there to explore in space? It was a very open-ended question, is how much is there to explore in space? Is this possible? What the generation today, in a very positive way, don't understand is that the possibilities are only limited by what you imagine. There is so much to explore in space that I can't even express it if I wanted to in words. And if that can be something that you can think about, then the investment is almost nothing. It's for you to think about A or B, little or large, and you can really pinpoint to where you fit in this black, deep matter of space that they call, because we're just getting started. Somebody mentioned to me in a conference at NASA, if we, for the next 10 decades, explore space, about if the 10th of the population on the Earth were involved in space, we'll explore about 0.5% for the next 100 years. And let that sink in. For 100 years, if 10% of 8 billion people were exploring every day, you would explore 0.5% of space. So if you let that sink in for a second, then I don't think there is an investment that they need to make from their end. So.
Interesting. One final question that I'm taking from audience is if any one of you can suggest a pathway for the students who are interested in more than one field of space science.
More than?
One field of space science.
Yeah, but as I said before, today students and also young professionals are so versatile. I have studied, for instance, astrophysics and molecular biology. And it came very handy in the search for life.
But I genuinely don't, I just want to add, I don't think that anybody here should be discouraged if you are above 18 or if you're above your 12th senior secondary, because you don't need the physics and the engineering and the math today. You don't need that. You don't need that to be an astronaut. You don't need that to be able to assist in any space exploration. I think what you have today, it can be as little as biology, or it can be as little as you don't even have a degree. But with your passion, that will take you a lot further than, trust me, the guy who has that aeronautical engineering degree sitting next to you. So don't let that limit and you know, keep your imagination to that, oh, I don't have this degree, so I won't be able to contribute. I think that's a myth. And today we can see it more than ever. So.
We need everyone in space. We need management professionals. We need accountants. We need lawyers. We need, you know, communications specialists. We need absolutely everyone. It definitely helps if you have multiple disciplines. So fantastic, you know, do combine degrees. Fantastic, you know, learn different languages. Do all sorts of things. Great. Combine it. Get the experience early. But don't think just because you're in a different field to being an engineer or something that you can't have a career in space. We're going to need everything in space. So please feel very inspired by that.
I just want to add, do not restrict yourself. The world is changing, the technology is changing every day. So it's the best thing if you are not like an expert in just one field. If you have multiple fields and multiple knowledge of different fields, that's where you get the edge. And as already mentioned, space is interdisciplinary and intergenerational. So it's very important that we all work towards that and skill ourselves.
Totally agree to that, Shreya. And in fact, you cannot really restrict yourself to just one when it comes to space. Even if you are working as a space lawyer, you need to know a few science things, which initially I also find challenging, but then I had to learn a few things. And if you are working in any area of space, you need to know another, at least a little bit of that. So you cannot really restrict yourself into just one area of space or domain of space. You need to understand few important aspects of another domain as well. And with that, I'll just ask one quick question, final questions to all the panelists that how and what do you, how do you want to see space community by 2040, and what is your hope to see in space community, especially for youth? So that's the final question, starting from Pascal.
I would say an international community which works together and drives a space community and drives innovation.
I'm going to steal her idea. I think that multicultural is what will take the space of the future.
I'd like the public and governments all over the world incredibly appreciative of space and all the benefits that it can bring to Earth, so that it grows the entire industry and it is a viable and really well-paid career for everyone in so many different countries.
And I would like to have more policy support and more knowledge sharing and skill development in the coming decades across geographies.
I want the next generation to take us off planet so that we're living and working in space and it's benefiting life here on Earth. That's my hope.
Very interesting. So with that, we end this session, and not to forget to thank, starting from Pascal, thank you for joining, and very interesting session. I really enjoyed moderating it. And Gopi Chand, again, it was very interesting to have answers and a different like perspective on the questions. And Lisa and Shreya and Clay, thank you for joining for this session.
Thank you to you.
Thank you very much for all the panelists and the moderator for this interesting session. Please also take your time and line up in front for a group picture. So this brings us to the end of this plenary program, GNF program, and I understand that also the technical sessions have all successfully concluded. So there is nothing between us and the closing ceremony other than a short reconfiguration of the stage. So give us just a few minutes to reconfigure the stage, and then we'll proceed with the closing ceremony. I'll call you. Okay. And it's one after the other, or is it always check and this? Yeah, that's fine. Listen, I will move over there while he is. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you to take a seat so that we can proceed with the last step in this Global Space Exploration Conference, GLEX 2025, the closing ceremony. All good things come to an end, and so does, of course, GLEX 2025. I know that we are all very sad to part after such a fantastic conference, but I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you for being here, for joining us here at GLEX, and contribute so significantly to the success of this conference. Once again, may I ask you please to take a seat? GLEX 2025 for sure has set a new standard in our agenda of IAF Global Space Conferences, and it was a great success, not only for the Federation, not only for the space exploration sector, but for the space community as a whole. And it is now my great pleasure to call on stage for some concluding remarks the President of the International Astronautical Federation, Clay Mowry, to come up on stage.
Wow, this has been an exceptional GLEX 2025. I want to thank everyone for coming, to attending, to participating in our sessions, for learning and connecting. It's been a great 3 days here. I also want to thank and offer my congratulations to ISRO, amazing hosts, and to the Astronautical Society of India, the co-hosts. Amazing, fantastic job. Yeah. You should be very proud. Let me just say, highlight for me was the dancing, the cultural activities, the incredible opening ceremony last night, the gala dinner, and I'll make you one promise, I'm not going to dance for you, which is a good thing. No dancing at the closing ceremony. So we talked about a lot of things over the last few days. We had countries sharing their perspectives on the latest missions that they've flown to space. They talked about where we're going, where we're going to cooperate, how we go farther. But the one word was we go farther together. Huh? We're doing this in cooperation. We're doing it together for society and humanity. And so I think there's a lot of great connections that were made. The astronauts were center stage at this event. It was fantastic. How do you have an exploration conference if you don't have the human element here? And so sharing those perspectives, as was mentioned, we had 8 nations represented on one panel. This was a fantastic to hear them sharing their personal experiences. There was a lot of discussion about democratizing and diversifying access to space. And I think we saw some of that as well. Sirisha Bandla put it very appropriately when she talked about the number of women that have now flown to space, over 100 women out of roughly 700, 800 people that have flown to space. This was fantastic. And we talked about exploring going to the next steps, which is going to the moon, returning back to the moon. India, congratulations again on your landing on the moon. But we're going to go back there with human presence, and this is something that hasn't happened in a very long time, and so we're excited about that. And then discussions about even going on to Mars with exploration. So it's a great era to be in, and I was really glad to hear this discussion. And I'd say, finally, Chancellor Suresh reminded us of why we're actually going to space and the fact that we're going to benefit the Earth. He was highlighting the evolution of launch, the decrease in launch costs, and the disruptive innovations that are paving the way for the next generation of exploration. So this was really incredible to hear this morning. One topic we haven't touched on was how good the food was here. It was fantastic. Thank you guys for sharing your cuisine. It was a little bit spicy for me, but okay. Maybe I can adjust, but it was lovely, and I really enjoyed the cuisine, so thank you very much. And the chai tea was fantastic. Just a few statistics here as we close out. We had over 1,500 people participating in this GLEX, which was really amazing. We had some 300 delegates that were registered, 350 delegates that were registered delegates with students in the next generation, and then another 200 plus students that came. So 550 students in total that came for this event, which was, I think, probably a new record for a GLEX or a global space event. So congratulations again to India and Israel. So with that, I think we're ready to wrap up and move to the awards. So thank you very much. Thank you for hosting us again, and congratulations.
Thanks, Clay, for summarizing so nicely and also for giving us the numbers that really tell us this was the biggest global space exploration and global conference in general which the IAF has ever done. And it is now, of course, time to reflect a bit what we have seen in the last 3 days, and what would be better than to show you our traditional highlights video, which we've prepared for you, so we can now roll the highlights and remember all the nice aspects of this GLEX 2025 of the last 3 days. So can we roll the video, please?
3, 2, 1, 0.
On behalf of the International Astronautical Federation, it is my pleasure as IAF President to welcome you to this GLEX 2025 here in the vibrant city of New Delhi, India.
Namaste India, Namaste GLEX 2025.
Together, we share a common goal to explore space for the good of humanity.
Let me welcome the astronauts from various nations for this important conference.
For India of 2025, sky is no longer the limit.
I realized after I had gone to space and had that incredible experience of viewing our planet, it became my favorite planet.
Look at the ISS, it's amazing what this spaceship is. We take it for granted, but it's absolutely unbelievable that it operates every day. It's been operating every day for so long.
What a beautiful video. I want to take the time here really to thank our filming team who has been with us for so many events and is always exciting us with exciting videos that are the legacy actually of our events. And I would like to thank really Cyril, Mathis, Thibault and Alexandra. They are all here behind there. Please just stand up very quickly so that everybody can see you. We thank you very much for all your work. They are working tirelessly in the background. These have been 3 very intensive days with extensive and very interesting exchanges. And it is now time to take stock, of course, of the main results, the findings, the outcomes of this conference. And who would be better fit to tell you a summary of the outcomes than our IPC co-chairs. And it's my great pleasure to welcome on stage now Professor Pascal Ehrenfreund and Dr. Victor Joseph to present to you the findings and the outcome of this conference. Please.
Yeah, so we are two chairs, and that's why we are also somehow doing our part in a different way. So the interest in GLEX 2025 call for abstract has been massive, resulting in a record high number of 1,275 abstract submissions covering really a wide range of topics from deep space exploration to space economy, space stations, the impact of artificial intelligence, and many others. So GLEX 2025 featured 6 high-level plenary sessions, including 3 led by heads of space agencies and industry leaders. And the other 3 focused on pivotal themes: low Earth orbit, space stations, next stop, the moon and beyond, and outer space exploration for all. So each session upheld the highest standards, showcasing cutting-edge developments, future technologies, and policy developments from around the world. And today, we celebrate the incredible talent and innovation showcased by our participants. And authors presented their work in 40 technical sessions and 2 interactive presentation sessions, which you remember were at lunch.
Thank you. This year, we had over 140 authors competing for recognition among 273 accepted interactive presentations. Each submission was evaluated based on 4 key criteria: the scientific or technical quality, the direct applicability to space, the originality and the creativity of the work, and of course, the visual quality of the presentations. So, let's take a moment to applaud all of our presenters for the hard work and dedication. So now, I think it's time to announce the winners of our prestigious awards for the bronze, for the silver, and the gold categories. So I'm going to announce the bronze award. So starting with our bronze award, the recipient of this award is Nidhi from India. For her presentation, Exploring the Moon with Hopping Robots, Enabling Efficient Dynamic Mobility for Lunar Surface Exploration. Congratulations, Nidhi. So now it's time to move to our silver award. And the second prize goes to Diego Perez Reyes from Mexico. Optimizing deep space operations, the impact of Lucia on crew communication and productivity. Congratulations.
And now we are doing this like at the Oscars, yeah? There is the moment we've all been waiting for, the Gold Award. And the Gold Award goes to
Dai Aso from Japan. For his presentation, Lunar Polar Exploration LUPEX project, the latest status of the project. Congratulations.
So we want to thank all the presenters for your outstanding contribution and to everyone who attended this year's conference. Your passion and hard work elevates our community and inspires future advancement in space exploration.
So let's give one more round of applause for our winners and for all the participants. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pascal and Victor. That was really good to get this summary of the outcome of this conference, and of course, a congratulations to all the winners of the IP competition. On behalf of the IAF, I would like now to once again thank our excellent host, the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, and the co-host, the Astronautical Society of India, and all the technical teams here. They were fantastic, and everybody contributed significantly to making this conference a real success. Dr. Anil Kumar, you were instrumental to making this conference happen and to making this conference a big success. And it is really important to hear now also your insights and your conclusions. Please.
Good evening to all. By the end of the day, we had an amazing conference, which has already created a history record regarding the global conferences annually conducted by IAF, number of abstracts, number of participants, all the way it was excellent thing, lot of technical content. See, I have a dual role, as you know, as a IAF Vice President. I had to thank ISRO, and also as an ISRO member, I had to thank IAF for organizing this conference. So first of all, let me thank IAF, President Claire Mori, Executive Director Christian, and all other Secretariat members, IAF Secretariat. They have worked tirelessly during the last 3 months and last 3 days. So let me thank, on behalf of ISRO, the IAF and IAF Secretariat for your wonderful jobs and support for this Global Conference on Space Exploration 2025. Thank you all. Let us give a big hand to IAF. Now this conference, it would not have been like this without the support of our respected Chairman ISRO and Secretary DOS, Dr. V. Narayanan. He has supported, and also Department of Space has supported with tremendously, not only personnel, but with the funding also. A lot of funding came from Department of Space. Let me thank ISRO and Department of Space and also the Scientist Secretary of ISRO for supporting us in wholeheartedly for organizing this global conference. And as you know, about 100 people from 9 subcommittees are working for this conference last many months, especially last 1 month they were working day and night for this conference and arranging this one in this particular Yashobhumi. So there is no words to tell their contributions, but still I have to appreciate them and congratulate them and thank them for their wonderful work. At this point of time, let me call upon 3 pillars. Dr. D.K. Singh, please come over the stage. In fact, he led Dr. D.K. Singh led the local organizing committee, spearheading a calm, contained person. With all his guidance, this has gone in a very well fashion. So let me welcome you, sir, here, this stage. Thank you. And we have a young man, Jerry, who was the member secretary for the local organizing committee. Jerry, please come over to the stage. Oh, I am not seeing Jerry. Yeah, come. Yeah, his efforts, actually, whatever we are seeing here in the last 3 days, I am not putting what percentage. His efforts only has brought this into this much majestic fashion, amazing fashion. So let me thank Jerry also. Now we have our co-host ASI and executive, actually president of the ASI is Chairman ISRO himself. He is not available. We have Executive Secretary Vinod Kumar. Dr. Vinod Kumar, please come. In fact, you know, this funding, finance committee was chaired by Vinod Kumar. He has done excellently well and getting the necessary funding, sponsors and exhibitors. And that is why we could do it in this fashion. Thank you, Dr. Vinod. So let us have a photo. Thank you all. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Kumar, and once again a big thanks to Dr. Singh, to Jerry, and also to Dr. Vinod Kumar. I would now also like to take the time to recognize those who have worked tirelessly over the last 2 years, actually, to put together this conference from the IAF side, my colleagues from the IAF Secretariat, and I would like to call them up on stage one by one, starting with Miriam, who was the one responsible for integrating this global conference, taking care of the IPC, making sure that everything fits together very well. Thanks a lot, Miriam. Julia Maria, on the other side, my deputy, who is trying to make sure that everything runs fine, and I'm always well prepared for everything, helping to lead the team. Lena, please come up. She is my second memory. She is my advisor. She is my second half. Thank you very much. Then, of course, we have Julia. Where's Julia? Responsible for all the registration and logistics and everything else, catering, whatever. Thank you very much. Martina. Yeah. She was the master of the plenary program. She made sure that we have all the slides in here, all the speakers here, and you are all well prepared for this. Constance, she was taking care of the Global Networking Forum sessions. Excellently done. Thank you very much. And we have Evelina, our senior communication manager, making sure that the messages go out to the whole world, informing everybody. Thank you very much. We have Svetlana. She was taking care of our amazing team of astronauts, that they feel comfortable, and they had a full program during the IC. Thanks a lot, Svetlana. She was also supporting, of course, the communication. Martin, who is taking care of our website, and also he was running the Slido show with all the questions from your side. Thank you very much. Then we have Martina. Martina, here she is, supporting us with all the quotes, filtering out the quotes and supporting communication activities. Thank you very much. Whom am I missing? Sebastian, the guy that was always running in front of your nose here, doing all the videos to do the social media and posting the daily summaries on Instagram. Please have a look, watch it. So let me also thank and acknowledge Alessandra, who is not here with us, but who is for sure watching us from Paris. A big thanks to her. Where is he? I don't see him. Stefano! Stefano! Going through my list here, I think I missed somebody. He is the master of all the technical sessions. You know him very well. He was entertaining the technical sessions, the IPC session chairs as well. So thank you very much. So maybe demonstrating that this was really a cooperation project, I would like to ask Dr. Kumar, Dr. Singh, Jerry, and Dr. Vinod Kumar, and of course our fabulous IAF President, Jay Mowry, come up here to do a joint photo with everybody. Thank you, everybody. And a big thanks to all of the delegates that have joined us here for these 3 days. We have now reached the end of this impressive conference, a conference that has demonstrated the importance and the potential of space exploration and has certainly contributed to the global space exploration effort. The journey doesn't stop here, the journey for the IAF. Of course, you have all heard that we will meet you, hopefully, and gather again in Sydney from the 29th of September to the 3rd of October for the next edition of the International Astronautical Congress, to which I invite all of you. But of course, I'm also thrilled to tell you and to announce that our next IAF Global Conference will be an IAF Global Conference on space and climate change, which will take place from the 2nd to the 4th of June next year, 2026, in Kigali, in Rwanda, in Africa, organized by the IAF and hosted by the Rwanda Space Agency. And in order to give you a bit of a taste of what this conference will be about and what Kigali and Rwanda is about, we will close this closing ceremony with a short promotional video for this GLOC 2026, to which I would welcome all of you wholeheartedly. Thank you very much.
One of the most important space global conversations of our time. The Global Space Conference on Climate Change, GLOC 2026, is coming to Kigali, Rwanda. Organized by the International Astronautical Federation, IAF, and proudly hosted by the Rwanda Space Agency. GLOC 2026 will unite global leaders, scientists, innovators, and youth to explore how space technologies can build climate resilience for a sustainable future. Join us in the heart of Africa, where innovation meets impact. A place of beauty, culture, and resilience. Save the date. Be part of the solution.
Thank you all and have a safe trip home. Thank you.